It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this morning. Glad that you're with us and glad that I'm here, and I think we're going to have a good show today. You know, I really, even I was happy with yesterday's show, which I'm often not happy with them. But I tell you what's going on with this HIPAA thing and what's happening with our healthcare system and Obamacare and the loss of our privacy and our, you know, the elimination of our privacy. If you didn't watch yesterday's programs, if you didn't listen to yesterday's program, you missed what even I think was a great program. And I very rarely think I do a knockdown, drag-out show, but I smacked yesterday out of the ballpark. So make sure that you get an opportunity to hear that if you missed it or for some reason. Make sure that you also share it with others, because this is the kind of thing that I think most people are not aware of. You walk into the doctor's office, you see that HIPAA form, you sign off on it, you have no idea what you're signing. They don't offer to actually let you see it. The other day I took someone to the doctor, and I had to pick up the piece of paper, but they had to sign on one of these little digital pads. And I'm thinking to myself, now wait a minute. They're just saying, well, just sign this. And you're not actually signing the piece of paper to understand what you're signing. You're just signing a little digital screen. If you don't pick up the piece of paper and take it with you, you have no idea what you just agreed to. It's ridiculous. They're counting on your ignorance and your stupidity. Show them different. Okay, this morning we're going to talk about a few different issues. As usual, we typically have 4 segments, and we're going to break it into that. By the way, for the record, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this, and I'd love to hear from you today. We have installed a new system, which we're going to be testing today. So if it doesn't work right, forgive me. But we're doing live testing today. Now, we've done some background testing, but today we're going to do live testing. And it's a call-in line. You know, we've had phone line troubles and trouble getting phone line services in and that kind of thing. So we've got a new phone line service in, care of Patriot FB. I'd love for you guys to use it today. If you're interested in giving the show a call, we'll be more than happy to bring you on the air. The number is 573-453-5505. That's area code 573-453-5505. While you're writing phone numbers down, and if you're running to go get a pen, I'll give it to you again. But while you're writing numbers down, make sure that you write down our call-in listen line, where you can listen to radio by phone. You can listen to the AVN program anytime you want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at your comfort, convenience, and leisure. That phone number is 415-325-0725. Again, that's 415-325-0725. So our topics this morning are a call-in line again, 573-453-5505. Our topics this morning are going to be one, I love this, guys. The IRS, you know, the Tea Party organizations that the IRS has been assaulting and going to war against. You're going to love this. Catherine Engelbrecht and a group that she's put together, they've put a $1 million bounty out on the IRS. Boom, shakalaka-laka. I love that. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is citizen action. That's change we can all believe in. Americans get together, crowdsource fund and pool their money, and turn around and put a bounty out on treason and traitors. That is a great idea. I'm going to talk to you about it so you understand what's going on. Our second topic. 47% of Americans in a brand new poll have given up looking for work. 47%. And yet, we're told immigration is still on the table because we have to have all these new immigrants because, well, we need high-tech workers. It's a lie and it's a sham, and I'm going to show you exactly how. There are brand new reports out by the Economic Policy Institute, the Rand Corporation, the Urban Institute, the National Research Council, and the Center for Immigration Studies. 5 reports. All 5 say the same thing. We don't have a shortage of science, technology, engineering, and math workers. That's called STEM workers, for the record. We don't have a shortage of those guys. We have 50% of all the United States of America graduates coming out of college with STEM degrees can't get a job. So why do we need STEM workers from Malaysia or Singapore or China or Japan or Russia or South America? We don't. I'll tell you why they want them. I'll tell you why the major corporations, the multinationals, want them. Because if those people squeak and complain, then they just say, well, okay, we're just going to void out your work permit, and now you got to go back home. And so those people who are coming here into the country to get a degree and then want to stay here and work, they're indentured servants. They become slaves. You, on the other hand, an American who just graduated with a degree, and you got to pay through the nose to cover and pay back to, of course, the federal government, because there's no private loaning or lending for university anymore. But you, an American citizen who's just trying to make sure that you can live the American dream, as you've been taught to believe it is, if you cry out and say, hey, wait a minute, you're not paying me enough, or I don't like the fact that you're doing something unethical, well, then they can't do that to you. Because you can say, all right, well, I'll just go get a job somewhere else. But they can't kick you out of the country, at least yet. They're working on that, I'm sure. All right. The VA scandal. Ladies and gentlemen, I've had enough with the nonsense. The president came out yesterday, said a whole lot of nothing. Shinseki, there's a brand new letter that's been released that shows that he knew a whole lot more that was going on. And here's the problem. This had better not be, and it cannot be, and it must not be a review of policy to let's make sure this never happens again. No. I want perp walks. I want a criminal investigation. I want people in shackles and orange jumpsuits. I want people charged with manslaughter, attempted murder. That's what this is. Theft. Well, how do I know theft? Because we're going to introduce you to a police officer from Miami who works for the VA Police Department. And you know what he says? You have no idea how bad it is. They deal openly in drugs right on the hospital grounds. He's exposing it. He's come forth. He's scared, he says. And he ought to be. Isn't that shameful? All right, our fourth topic. Obama and on Benghazi. Wait till you hear this. It's not serious, he says. It's not serious. But I beg to differ because the Dems have just agreed to join the investigation, which means that they're going to be joining the investigation to look into Benghazi. Now, I'm sure they're doing it to protect their own interest. But the truth is, Benghazi is a real issue. It is serious. And I got to tell you something. It's serious to the families of the 4 men who were killed. It's serious to the hundreds of thousands of people that have already or will die as a result of those weapons. What weapons, you ask? That's what Benghazi's all about, folks. It was about a massive international gun-running operation that made Iran-Contra or Fast and Furious look like a couple of kids trading marbles in the schoolyard. All right, let's break into our first topic. If you're interested in calling in on this segment, you can do that, 573-453-5505. So here's the deal. A nonprofit group has come forward. A nonprofit group. Catherine Engelbrecht is the president of the group called True the Vote, right? She was one of the ones that was, basically persecuted by the IRS. and she officially announced on Wednesday night on Megyn Kelly's Fox News show that they have put together this project. I love this. This is a great concept. I wish I'd have thought of it. I mean, I come up with a lot of creative stuff, but this one's great. They're going to put out a $1 million bounty to anyone who will provide the smoking gun, quote unquote, as evidence to implicate IRS leadership or members of the Obama administration who purposely targeted the conservative and Tea Party-minded affiliate groups. Now, Greg Phillips, he's the director of a group called the Voters Trust. It's a nonprofit, it's a political nonprofit 501c4. And they basically established themselves to identify and mobilize American voters to see what was really happening in our country. And they and Catherine Engelbrecht have gotten together to essentially put this bounty out there and crowdsource fund bounties to identify treason. I want this thing to go viral. I don't mean this project. I mean the idea of this. Think about it this way. If everybody who is, look, we know that the true patriots in the country are a minority, right? I mean, I think we are. You know, we know that 40% of the country is either on drugs, pharmaceuticals. Now I'm talking about. There's another 10% that's not on pharmaceuticals, but okay, so 50% is stoned out of their minds. Most of them on, pharmaceuticals. 50% are unemployed and are willing to do whatever it takes to get that check. 50%, and there's a lot of overlap here, but 50% are completely, totally, and not even unhappily dependent upon federal government. And they don't care. They'll do whatever they're told as long as you just, So what do we got? A 20% mass of Americans who are hardcore, true patriots? Okay, so let's just take that number for a moment. We got roughly 300 million Americans. Count out the children, and you're down to about 200 million. Take the 50% who are absolutely useless as teats on a boar hog to us, and we're down to 100 million. Take 20% of that number, and we're down to 20 million. Okay, there we go. We got 20 million people who are willing to stand up and fight for their country. By the way, that number should encourage you. 20 million Americans who will have said, I've had enough. But here's an important aspect of this. Let's assume that every one of those 20 million Americans was willing to donate $5. Okay? $5. It's $100 million. We could fund 1 million bounty projects. Bingo. I like that idea. I mean, how about one for Benghazi? Or maybe 2 for Benghazi. How about a couple on Fast and Furious? And we could probably pull that thing back out of the the outhouse that Obama and Eric Holder have pushed that into and then shut and locked the door on us. I mean, we can't go anywhere with Fast and Furious because Eric Holder has absolutely abjectly refused, and the president's given him cover for releasing any of the documents. That's why he was charged and convicted with both civil and criminal contempt of Congress. Wow. You mean the chief law enforcement officer in the nation is guilty and charged with contempt of Congress? Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. That's pretty amazing. So the idea is you get $100 million together, which, I mean, literally is $1 a person, right? Or $5 a person, excuse me. And with that $100 million, you put bounties out on these people that are betraying us. I love that idea. One, there ain't a dagnab thing they can do about it. It's not illegal. It is definitely a monkey wrench. Suddenly, Washington will get very, very nervous. Who in their staff, who in their internal circle is going to step out to take $1 million? let me tell you something. This is a brilliant idea. Will it get off the ground? I don't know. It will if we make it get off the ground. And so the challenge to you is, will you participate? Now, there's a couple of rules. In order for the person to get the money and to qualify, the person needs to provide, quote, relevant evidence, including emails, eyewitness accounts, or testimony of political targeting of Americans by the IRS or the Obama administration that has not been previously reported. Now, that's important, right? So it's got to be a new revelation. It's got to be a new exposure, and it has to be documentable, empirical evidence. It either has to be email, a memo, an eyewitness account, a first-person testimony, something along those lines. I like that. One, it provides accountability. We're not just going to, take hearsay. Phillips says the evidence must lead directly to the arrest and conviction of those people that are responsible, and that the information provided will remain anonymous and confidential. There you go. Now, of course, if the person has to testify, I don't know how that's going to remain confidential, but, quite frankly, $1 million will motivate a lot of Americans to step up. Think about it. A lot of the people that know what's going on in our country and know the treason that's being perpetrated on us every day, these are staffers who work in these congressmen and congressional offices. These are people who work in the IRS. They make $60,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. But think about it for a moment. Of course, it's going to be interesting to file where you got that $1 million payment on your IRS return. Yeah, I got this $1 million payment for spilling the beans on you. All right. Anyway, the idea is got a lot of legs. I like it. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be holes in it. But the point is simply this. America, everybody says, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. My vote doesn't count anymore. You're right. It doesn't. And what can I do? Well, here's what you can do. You can put $5 into the dagnab kitty. $5. $5. We got 100. We got a pool of $100 million for 100 whistleblowers to come forward. It's better than a lottery ticket. Phillips says, we are going to crowdsource the financing for the bounty. Crowdsourcing. You know what crowdsourcing is? It means everybody pitches in a few shekels. And at the end of the day, you got enough to make the project work. His group has been planning the public bounty for months. This is about the American people, says Phillips. The days of the big party, Republican, Democrat, Tea Party, are over. And everybody has to unite right now. We're going to unite people around the truth. We're going to return people to liberty instead of expecting Congress or the Justice Department to investigate these wrongdoings. Now, there's a link on the web to this story, and it'll be in the description section of this YouTube video. And there's a poster there, and it's there's a link obviously where you can go contribute. The point is simply this, America. It's time for us to take an opportunity to reach out there and slap these idiots silly. And let's use what they use against us. Money. They're using our money against us. Why don't we take $5 each and use it against them? I think the project will work. And I know it will work if millions of Americans just get behind it. You lost $5 in change the other day you can't even find. We need 20 million Americans to contribute $5. Now, I've interviewed Catherine Albrecht, and I've talked about her story before. I'm going to try to reach her, and what I'd like to see is this idea expand beyond just the IRS. I'd like to make this an open invitation that anyone who will come forward and show us documented proof that the congressman they work for can be removed based on the evidence that they have. Proof of wrongdoing, proof of a violation of the law, proof of treason. And not just there. How about the EPA? How about the Border Patrol? How about ATF? How about Homeland Security? IRS, USDA, Department of the Interior, FCC, FAA. We can go on and on and on. There are hundreds upon hundreds of federal agencies out there, all of which are doing everything in their power to destroy you, using your money. So put your money up as a shield against the sword they've built out of your money, hammered out of your money, stolen from you. If you're interested in this project, please send me an email. You can communicate with me by email at mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. All right, before we wrap for this segment, I've got 2 minutes left. Mike Slack from American Resume Service. They've got 20,000 employed happy clients in the last 25 years. This guy is a resume monster. He is one of the best resume writers I've ever seen. And he has a business out there at AmericanResumeService.com. AmericanResumeService.com. Now, there's 2 reasons I'm telling you about this. One, he's a great resume writer, and everybody, needs a tuned-up resume, especially now when the job market's so competitive. But moreover, he's got a $200 resume development package that he offers out there, and he's going to offer it to our AVN listenership for $100, and then he's going to take that whole $100 and donate it to the program. Wow. So first of all, you're getting a $200 resume package for $100, and secondly, that $100 is going to support AVN. I think that's a wonderful, it's a gracious, a touching offer to support this program after my call the other day to businesses to help support the effort. And it's not only that, but it's something you're actually going to benefit from. You'd have to buy it anyway. If you really want to be competitive in the job market, you got to have a sharp resume. And I'm telling you, when you see what Mike will do for you, you'll be blown away. Go to AmericanResumeService.com. You can call him at 417-264-2486. That's 417-264-2486. Or you can email him at info@AmericanResumeService.com. info@AmericanResumeService.com. Make sure that you mention that you heard about it through AVN in this program and that you're taking advantage of the 50% off a resume package, and he'll know exactly what to do. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment. Make sure that you visit our friends over at Battery Station. That's batterystation.com, batterystation.com. They're located here in West Plains. You can call them on the phone if you want at 417-257-7799. We'll be back in just a minute. 47% of Americans have given up looking for work, but immigration's still on the table. That groove. You're listening to America's Voice Now. And if you're just joining with us, we're in our second segment this morning. We broke the news that American patriots are putting out a bounty on the IRS. I love it. I love that idea. Talk about hitting them where it hurts, right? There ain't nothing better than that. I can't stand, liars, cutthroats, and traitors. Anybody who would betray their own people for some short-term gain on their personal lifestyle, job, whatever, got no use for them. But I got to tell you something, America. America, you have a chance and an opportunity to set the record straight here. And I can't encourage you strongly enough to participate. There's a post out there on the Blaze about a $1 million bounty that's being offered for smoking gun in the IRS scandal. And I want to take it and expand it beyond that. And I'll try to communicate with Greg Phillips and Ms. Albrecht about doing exactly that. But America, throw $5 at this. $1, for five different funds. Let's raise $100 million. And they're buying treason. Let's buy. I mean, if a guy, or a person who works in an office out there needs money to stand up and do the right thing, okay, guess what? As long as we end up getting the evidence to be able to convict these people and expose the truth of their treason to America, fine. That's how they're getting them. They're bribing them with the job. Speaking of jobs, sometimes I surprise myself with how smooth I segue in from one area to another. Yeah, right. Speaking of jobs, isn't it amazing that 47% of Americans in a brand new poll have completely given up looking for a job? I kid you not, 47% of all the unemployed have completely given up looking for a job. And it was done over 1,500 unemployed adult Americans last month. 47% agree with the following statement: I've completely given up looking for a job. 7% said they agree completely. 7% said they agree a lot. 15% said they agree somewhat. Forget the numbers. It doesn't matter. You get the point. But here's the real problem. We know we've got a massive unemployment problem in this country. Did you know that in the minority population, the black minority population, the unemployment rate is at 20%? I mean, I've heard numbers even higher than that, but and I've heard 20% more consistently. So let's use that because, all of this is fudge nonsense, statistical gamesmanship anyhow. But for the record, I mean, that's the official number. Now, the official number in the United States is south of 7%. It's like 6.5 or 6.9 or something. So my point is, and we know that unemployment's far higher than that because all these people who stop looking for work, they're not even on the list anymore. That's how they get the number down, by saying, well, these people aren't unemployed. They just don't exist anymore. They're shadows in our society. Really? They're shadows with children to feed, mortgages to pay, cars to pay for, gasoline to buy, food to purchase. Hello? But meanwhile, we've got the Department of Labor. Wait until you hear this one. We've got the Department of Labor, and you know what they say? Now, of course, the Department of Labor has one job, right? They are supposed to represent and support American labor force, right? But the U.S. Secretary, the Deputy Secretary of Labor, a guy by the name of Chris Liu, L-U, which means he's of Asian descent, apparently, he came out the other day and he made an amazing statement showing us that, which frankly, in my opinion, qualifies him for immediate resignation and removal from his job. If he doesn't resign, he should be removed. Because he works for the U.S. Department of Labor, which has a fiduciary responsibility. Now, the word fiduciary means something very, very important in law. A fiduciary responsibility is different than just a responsibility. A fiduciary responsibility has a higher threshold. A fiduciary responsibility is the one that your bank holds when they hold your money. They owe you a higher level of trust because you gave them that money for safekeeping. A fiduciary responsibility is the one that your attorney has to you. He's supposed to allegedly represent you. Now, if he works for the Bar Association, and they all do, 100% of them do, they have actually sworn allegiance to the court, just for the record, in case you didn't know this. They actually don't represent you. They are an officer of the court, officially. Did you know that every attorney is legally an officer of the court? Yeah, that means they don't represent you. But anyway, I digress. My point is simply this. They have, in theory, a fiduciary responsibility to you. A fiduciary responsibility is the one that your attorney has when you give him money to hold into trust. And you say, here, put this in your trust account, and when we close the business deal, that'll be used for the down payment. Now, the fiduciary responsibility he has is to hold that in safekeeping and in trust for you, and not to, take his girlfriend on vacation to the Bahamas. Right? Well, a person who works for a government agency that has been created for the benefit and the improvement of the labor force in the United States has a fiduciary responsibility to represent the U.S. labor force. But Chris Liu came out and said, we need to also fix our broken immigration system to encourage more highly educated foreign-born workers to come to the United States. If we are to compete in a global economy, we must continue to attract and retain the world's brightest minds. Too many foreign students, many from Asian countries, come to the United States to further their education, but must return home when they cannot obtain a green card or an immigrant visa. As part of President Barack Obama's immigration reforms, he has called for stapling green cards to the diplomas of foreign graduate students in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields, STEM fields, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Here's the problem. The department's actual website has a mission statement on it, and here's what it says. To foster, promote, and develop the welfare of the wage earners, job seekers, and retirees of the United States. Improve working conditions, advance opportunities for profitable employment, and assure work-related benefits and rights. Nowhere in there does it say improve the lot of foreign students who come here to get an education. Nowhere in there does it say support and protect and defend foreign workers over and above your own countrymen. Nowhere in there does it say to foster, promote, and develop the welfare of wage earners, job seekers, and retirees of the entire world before we will look after our own here in the United States. It doesn't say that. So, whose side is Mr. Liu working on? You see, when you break your fiduciary responsibility, it's an abuse of trust, and that's a legal term too. Because an abuse of trust is one that has very, very clear criminal implication. Now, an abuse of trust is the one that says your attorney spills the beans on something privately that you and he have discussed and arranged. Right? You have this thing called client-attorney privilege. If your attorney goes out there and talks to the prosecutor and says, my guy admitted to it, but we got to figure it. Oh, right there, abuse of trust. An abuse of trust is an attorney who does, in fact, take your money out of the account that he's holding for you in trust for the coming real estate or business deal, and he takes his girlfriend on vacation with it. That's not his money. An abuse of trust is someone who takes the power of attorney that you've given them, and you've signed power of attorney to, your cousin who you thought you could trust because you've asked him to handle some issue for you. And while he's there, he does something that is not part of that job. You've asked him to go and close a real estate transaction for you. But while he's at it, he goes to the bank and he withdraws $10,000 and he puts it in his own pocket. He didn't have the right to do that. That was a violation of his designated duty as a power of attorney, and someone to act on your behalf. The key operative phrase here is acting on our behalf. But Mr. Liu is not acting on our behalf. In fact, we know he's not, and I'm going to tell you why. Because there's a brand new report out from the Center for Immigration Studies. Now, this is the same group, by the way, that broke the news on the 36,000 illegal immigrants that were released into the community after having committed 88,000 crimes, including murder, kidnapping, child abuse, rape, assault, battery, burglary. The list goes on. The Center for Immigration Studies has, and National Review, a reporter at National Review, have put together a brand new report that incorporates reports from other entities, one of whom is called the Economic Policy Institute, another one called the Rand Corporation. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Rand Corporation is, they're a massive multinational. They are usually involved in some kind of skullduggery and kind of nebulous. My point is that they're generally supporters of big government, not the other way around. The Urban Institute and the National Research Council. All four of these groups have all found the same thing, that there is no evidence that STEM workers are in short supply. In fact, they found exactly the opposite to be true. Not only are they not in short supply, but we can't fill the jobs that we have for the ones that are graduating that are born here. So why would we import others to do the jobs that we can't fill and make it even harder for our young graduates to be able to get the jobs that they've just finished a college degree and paid for? Hello? I mean, how many times have you heard the term, we need common sense reform? What's not common sense about take care of your own first? You wouldn't take food out of your own kid's mouth to give to a total stranger. You wouldn't say, we don't have much, we're just going to make the mortgage this month, and then say, but you know what? There's a poor family down the road who we don't know, and we heard that they didn't pay their mortgage, so we're not going to pay ours, we're going to pay their mortgage for them instead. Not when you're on the balls of your rear end and you can barely afford your own. You have an obligation, a fiduciary obligation to your own self and your family. To make it even worse, PBS, that's the public broadcasting system, which is funded by the federal government and is a vast apologist for this administration. They even published an opinion piece based on the EPI study. That's the Economic Policy Institute study. And here's what they titled it. This is stunning from PBS. Quote, "The bogus high-tech worker shortage. How guest workers lower U.S. wages." Now, Rand Corporation looked backward in time, and then they found that, quote, "Despite recurring concerns about potential shortages of STEM personnel, we did not find any evidence that such shortages have existed, at least since 1990, nor that they are on tomorrow's horizon." Hey, folks, it doesn't get any more damning than that. I mean, come on. In an article that's entitled "The Science and Engineering Shortage is a Myth," which was published in The Atlantic, which again is talk about liberal progressive magazine. Michael Teitelbaum from the Harvard Law School, he summarized the literature on STEM. He says, quote, "No one has been able to find any evidence indicating current widespread labor market shortages or hiring difficulties in science and engineering occupations that require a bachelor's degree or higher." Now, by the way, Teitelbaum is one of the nation's leading experts on STEM employment, allegedly, because he's a Harvard guy, so I guess that makes him leading, right? But he's supposed to be a leading expert on STEM employment. He's the former vice president of the Sloan Foundation, which is a philanthropic organization that's devoted to STEM education. They make grants and stuff available. And he's the author of Falling Behind, Boom, Bust in the Global Race for Scientific Talent. It's published by Princeton University Press. So, the guy's got some credentials and bona fides, right? Here's the real reason that all of these corporations And we're talking about all the multinationals now. When I say that, I want you to understand who we're talking about. We're talking about all the high-tech companies who are clamoring, screaming. By the way, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has come out in favor of amnesty for illegal immigrants. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Who do they represent? Big business. Now, the reason that they do, and the companies that are involved, and we're not just talking about the Google, AOL, Yahoo, although that's part of it. But there's also a lot of other smaller companies out there. And then there's a lot of, Apple is another one, right? There's a lot of companies that you wouldn't think would necessarily qualify for this, but need a lot of engineering skills. Caterpillar is an example. And, it's not just limited to high tech. People wouldn't ordinarily construe Caterpillar to be high tech. It's a big yellow machine that pushes dirt, right? We've had those for quite a while. There's not a whole lot of innovation in that. It's got a hydraulic hose that they may have improved the quality of, but basically it's the same functionality it's been for the last 30 years. So my point is simply this. These corporations it's not just a function of cheap labor. What this is hostage taking. And I mean that in its truest sense of the word. It's an economic form of kidnapping. Let me explain. You come over here from India, Pakistan. You come over here from France. You come over here from, some other third world country, right? You come over here from somewhere in the Eastern Bloc, where things are economically depressed. You come over here from any of the stands, right? You get an education here under a student visa, and when you are done, they want to staple your green card right to it. And that says you're entitled to now work here and stay here. The other thing that they're trying to push through is for these people who have a green card and here under these visas, for their wives or spouses, I should say, to be allowed to work in the United States. Now, right now, they're prohibited. In other words, you can work, but your spouse can't. Because, if there's 1 million of you and we have to let your spouses work, now we got 2 million, right? And that means that they are cutting back on American jobs. Because now you've got spouses who are doing God only knows what kind of work, everything from, sweeping the floors to CEOs. And suddenly they're competing with American spouses for the same jobs. Well, your creatures in Congress are willing and ready and desperate to allow that too. Why? I'm going to tell you why in a nutshell. Because if you balk, if you bellyache, if you complain about the pay or the hours that you're required to put in, if you whine about your rights, or you complain about the conditions under which you're required to work, guess what? They simply pull your work permit and you got to go home. And you have no intention of going back to that daub and wattle hut that you came from. That may sound cold, but it's the truth. Here's some interesting statistics, and this is government data. In 2012, there were more than twice as many people with STEM degrees, both immigrant and native born, as there were the STEM jobs that were available. So in other words, there's already a 2-to-1 ratio of STEM degrees to STEM jobs. So we've already got 2 people for every job. 5.3 million STEM jobs versus 12.1 million people with STEM degrees. Only 1/3 of the natives who have a STEM degree and have a job work in a STEM occupation: science, technology, engineering, and math, right? There are 1.5 million native-born Americans with engineering degrees not working as engineers, as well as 500,000 with technology degrees, 400,000 more with math degrees, and 2.6 million with science degrees that aren't even working in their degreed field. Plus, there are 1.2 million Native Americans with STEM degrees who are not working at all. You're kidding me, right? No, I'm telling you the truth. Meanwhile, less than half of all the immigrants with a STEM degree actually work in a STEM job as well. In particular, 23% of all the immigrants with engineering degrees work as engineers. Less than a quarter. Of the 700,000 immigrant STEM workers allowed into the country between 2007 and 2012, that's a pretty long span, only 1/3 of them got a STEM job. And 1/3 got a non-STEM job. And 1/3 don't have a job at all. Here's the problem. We have an overabundance of STEM qualified people, an underabundance of jobs. Government adds more and more and more regulation, which limits the amount of jobs that are out there because corporations are so busy making sure they're covering every jot and tittle that they don't get a chance to actually be innovative and creative anymore. That's the simple truth, ladies and gentlemen. All innovation and creativity is stopped. Medical research is ended. I mean, that's it. Now the only thing out there that anybody can get money for is climate change studies. Well, come on. There's plenty of money available if you're willing to do commissioned science that supports the administration's agenda. But if you're an actual scientist who really wants to, or an inventor who wants to actually create something, God forbid. See, the real truth is simply this. Companies like IBM, these banking corporations, the high technology markets, the low tech markets that still need engineering skills and staff and science degrees, they're not interested in hiring Americans because they can't hold anything over your head. They can't hold and dangle the sword of Damocles over you. They can, however, hold the sword of Damocles over a guy who came and left some, impoverished life behind, came over here, worked hard, got himself a degree. All of that I applaud. And I admire their desire to stay in the country and continue to work. Now they bring their spouse over. Now they've made a life. They're used to being able to drive a car. They've actually got a Toyota or a General Motors car. Here's the problem. They're not willing to give that up. They like their iPhone. They like their computer. They like the fact that they can live in a 2-bedroom apartment and they don't have to have 13 other people living with them. They like the fact that they've got air conditioning. They like the fact that they've got an actual refrigerator, that they've got 2 toilets in the house versus no toilets in the house, that they've got a toilet that actually flushes and you don't have to go outside in the dead of winter to use the bathroom. They like the fact that they have an opportunity to go out and have a beer with some friends and relax a little bit, that they don't have to go out into the field, or that they are not hamstrung by some misguided religious doctrine that says you can't do that because that's, a reason for me to flay you alive with a cat of nine tails. That's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. These people don't want to go back to that. Who would? Think about it. Who would? And that's the foreign stuff. We haven't even hit on Mexico. But the simple truth is this. Those companies want to hold those people as indentured slaves. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the real motivation behind immigration amnesty. Don't support slavery. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. You can communicate with me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the VA scandal must be converted to a criminal investigation. Nothing less will do. Criminal. They've already destroyed a lot of evidence. We'll be right back.
It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Mike Evans. I'm your host here this morning. You're joining us in the middle of our program. We have covered two other topics this morning, one of which is the IRS gets $1 million bounty put on them by the Tea Party for evidence leading to the conviction of individuals who, or leading to the conviction of individuals who were participating in the persecution. I love the idea. I'm behind it 100%. I think Americans should be willing to each kick in, let's say, $5, fund 100 of these bounties, and not just limit it only to the IRS. Our second topic was 47% of Americans have given up, but the government and all of these multinational corporations who are oligarchs who buy and sell our Congress people and our alleged leaders, they're pushing for immigration reform and amnesty. Why? Because they want endangered. They want they are endangered. They want indentured servants. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You can't be threatened with being kicked out of the country. They can't hold the sword of Damocles over your head. They can over someone whose green card they hold and is beholden to them to continue in that job, or they get booted out of the country. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the real issue. Plus, they're willing to work for less, so they get two bennies out of it. One, they get to cut because you're an American. You demand more money. These people probably would demand more money, but they can't because if they do, they'll just be kicked out of the country, removed, sent home, and they have no intention of going back there. All right, this segment is going to be the VA scandal and how Obama came out the other day, denied that the wait times have caused death. How can he say that? That reminds me of when he did that interview with O'Reilly on the Super Bowl day. And he said right into the camera with a straight face that there wasn't a smidgen of truth to the IRS corruption issue. And we know that there was. We know that he was a patent liar. And now he's done it again. He's coming out and he's saying there's no proof that the VA wait times cause death. This is a guy who uses the phrase common sense a lot. And by the way, never actually exemplifies common sense. But he claims the backlogs have actually improved. Everybody knows that that's patently false. I mean, the guy is such a pathological liar. He reminds me of that kid we all knew when we grew up, when we were growing up. The one who was always constantly lying about something. Always had a better story than you. If you went to Disney World, he had gone to Disney World 3 times with, a movie star. You know who I'm talking about, right? There are people who are so insecure, who are so, I don't know. I'm not sure what the right word is. I'm sorry. I'm getting information here on. Somebody told me the levels were too high on the mic. There are people that are so misguided and so desperate for attention, or see, I guess in his case, he doesn't have anything to tell the truth about. Everything that, if he actually told the truth, I mean, what would he say to us? You're right, nation. I'm a complete, total, and utter failure. I mean, what else can he say? Now, I'm not giving him a pass based on that. But here's a guy who sat here silent for 2 weeks while this VA thing unraveled in front of everybody's eyes. And to make matters worse, he was notified in 3 separate reports back in 2008, was again notified in 2010, and did nothing about it. He railed against his predecessor, George Bush, who was also a traitor, by the way, for the same exact thing, throwing him under the bus, saying how terrible he was for not resolving the VA problem. He came in, made a lot of promises, and like every other promise he's ever made, he immediately turned around and broke it. Now, it's coming out that, this stuff is, people are dying as a result of it. He actually had the unmitigated gall to say, we launched an all-out war on the disability claim backlog. And in the past year alone, we slashed that backlog by half. You know what? First of all, he waited 2 weeks to come out. And the reason he did is very simple. He had the rats in the White House scrambling around in 100 different directions to identify if there was one memo, one piece of email, one person who could come forward, who could maybe accept the $1 million bribe from the Tea Party group to whistleblow. That's what he was worried about. He was desperately concerned that somebody could come out and say, well, here's the report or the email or the whatever that I sent to them that shows that they knew. So my point is, when we've got that kind of betrayal, and after a 2-week wait, he comes out and basically he tells us everything we already knew. I mean, he didn't break any news here. And then he really tries to minimize the actual realities of the problem. I mean, that's shameful. Now, Shinseki has a letter that just hit. Let me find it for you. The Washington Post. Here it is. Shinseki's letter reveals the VA's early efforts to explain the hospital's secret lists. He says the secret list may refer to a spreadsheet of interim notes that a Phoenix VA clinic developed, quote, for reference purposes while entering new patients into an electronic scheduling database. How many times have you walked into the doctor's office and seen the nurse take down everything on paper and then go put it into the system? If they've got a computer in front of them, they don't do that. They may have you fill out a form and then translate it, but it doesn't work the other way around. They don't sit there and fill out a spreadsheet manually and then go type it all in. That's called double work. Nobody does that. But then, Jeff Miller, the House Veterans Affairs Committee chairman, he raised the following question. Why did the VA destroy the spreadsheets? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the key question. That is the key question. Because by asking that question, he exposed the truth of the issue. You see, this should and must be a criminal investigation. This cannot be an investigation that says we want to take a look at the issues surrounding how do we keep this from happening again. That's what we heard about the IRS. That's what we heard about Fast and Furious. That's what we heard about Benghazi. That's not what we want to hear. That's not what we need to hear. What we need to hear is how many people are going to go to prison. Dan, are you with us?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. How are you?
I'm just fine. We needed to test your phone line, and I really what I wanted to call about was the STEM stuff. But the VA thing is a hard thing for me to watch too, because I have friends and I have family, and they very much depend on that VA system for the lack of care that they're getting. One fella in town that, I mean, he literally, his heart and pulmonary system were destroyed by, chemical application in Vietnam.
Right.
And he's been dealing with that, well, since he came home. I mean, for most of his life. And basically, their answer to everything is drive down, halfway down into Arkansas and stay overnight, and we'll ignore you while you are staying overnight, and then tomorrow come into the office and we'll let you sit there for 8 to 10 hours, then we'll plug you into a machine, hand you a bag full of pills, send you home.
Right.
That's not care. That's not what he deserves. I mean,
well, even worse is those people who aren't getting any care at all. I mean, these are people that,
and I agree.
These are people. Some of these people have waited more than a year to even be seen. I mean, some of the stories that are coming out of here. I watched a thing on Hannity the other day that absolutely blew me away. These two guys that are supposed to be veterans watchdogs. One of them was from Vietnam Veterans of America, and another one was from another veteran, oversight group or veteran representation group. Both of them were almost apologizing for this. They'd been called into a meeting with this deputy chief of staff from the White House, and these guys made me sick. I thought to myself, this is what happens when a guy who's got the right intentions gets into a bureaucratic seat and he gets fat, dumb, and happy. I was just stunned.
You bet. My uncle, my father's younger brother, did 3 tours of duty in Vietnam and came back with various different issues, and he finally stopped going to the VA for even attempting to get any help. Right. And fortunately, he managed to get a job that had some decent health insurance, and they took care of most of it. But there's some things there that just will never ever be taken care of. Unfortunately, that's part of the whole war thing. But the fact that he was never able to get the services that he should have gotten, this just brings that to a head. And now that there's always been people dying from not getting services from the VA. I'm sorry. I don't know of a single veteran that I've talked to or met in my life that didn't know somebody that didn't get served. I mean, and this is going back, my memories go back as far as Vietnam. My father was in Korea. But, veterans have been, they bring them home, they throw a few Band-Aids on them, if that, and say, see ya. And it's despicable.
Yeah. Well, one of the Bush officials came out, and they won't name who, but it was an article in WorldNet Daily. A Bush 41 official has come out and said that it's extreme incompetence, and somebody ought to go into the VA. Somebody needs to go in there and lead. And my question there is, go in and lead. Well, how about go in and gut the entire operation? Clean house. Arrest a vast number of these criminals who are running there and preying, frankly, on American victims. And then put in an emergency waiver for the next 12 months until we can sort this out that allows, and make it extendable if necessary, that allows every vet to go to just any hospital or clinic that they need to for treatment. Because at this point in time, we can't wait for some long-winded congressional investigation to try to identify what's going on. We need to immediately freeze the VA, and I mean freeze it in its tracks. Everybody who's in the VA is suspended without pay until we figure out what's going on. Then we need a full accounting of every person, every department, every job, every function, every piece of equipment that's out there. And if we hear complaints from the workers about the freezing and them losing their jobs, ask them simply this: why didn't you blow the whistle then? You knew what was going on. Everybody in the VA knows. We're the last ones to know, and the VA and the vets are paying the bill. So the question is, aren't we, as an American populace, sick and tired of people who put their own personal interest ahead of their duty and their oath and are willing to allow people that they call their own countrymen to die? That's just, it's incomprehensible to me. I'll give you the last word.
It is. All right. It is incomprehensible, and it's insane. And frankly, if this country were to be diagnosed by some kind of a mental professional, insanity would be about down at the bottom of the list of diagnoses that we have going on from our leadership.
Right.
Frankly, I mean, it is insanity, and with the number of people that live in this country and the history that this country has had of the people, at least those that woke up and took matters into their hands, sooner or later somebody's going to pay a price for this mess. At least one would hope.
Well,
and I'm hoping that insanity gets removed.
Right.
I treat it as it should be.
Well,
So
I'm actually.
my last word. And
thank you. The issue of insanity. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate your call. The issue of
thanks, Mike.
The issue of insanity, and I apologize for chopping you off there. We're testing out a new phone system, guys, and so I apologize if I chopped Dan off too quick there. The issue of insanity, though, in my opinion on this, is that it's not necessary. Insanity is bad, but it's not something that someone does willfully. This behavior is not insane. This behavior is pathological, right? There's some. This is psychopathic behavior, sociopathic behavior, antisocial behavior for personal gain. That's the major problem here. Because, there's no way that you can sit there and say, well, this is just something that, happened and so forth and so on. This didn't just happen. A lot of people know and knew what was going on here. This is not something that can be taken lightly and shouldn't be looked upon as a criminal enterprise. It is a legitimate criminal enterprise. And sitting here and saying, well, what we want to make sure is that it never happens again. We've been hearing that nonsensical excuse. We hear that from every one of these tyrants that runs, the White House throne. We hear that from every time there's a scandal that breaks open. We're not worried about accountability. We just want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Wait a second. Why don't you say that to the guy who robbed a bank to feed his kids? Well, we're not going to punish you. We just want to make sure that it doesn't happen again, so we're going to help you find a job. Well, we wouldn't do that. Why wouldn't we? Because he committed a crime. So why would we say crime goes unpunished by government? Crime goes unpunished by government because all we're really interested in is making sure it doesn't happen again. No, I'm not. I'm interested in seeing punishment dealt out, doled out, and literally ladled over the head of those who have committed the crime. You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because the crime that they are accused of and the crimes of which they're guilty of are greater than a guy who commits a crime and steals bread to feed his family. I'm not saying that's noble. I'm just saying it's one thing when you steal to feed your kids, and it's another thing when you steal or rob or cheat or lie to further your own career. I mean, it's not like these people in these situations and in these jobs are starving. They're making more than the same qualified people in the private sector, and they have all of these benefits, all of these long-term pension plans. They have all kinds of benefits and bennies that go along with it, and they're corrupt. If this happened at a private hospital, think about it, America. Do you think that the FBI or whatever organization was charged with investigating them would say, well, we just want to make sure it doesn't happen again. We're not going to hold this person accountable for, allowing the patient's wrong leg to be taken off or for failing. They would say, the heck with that. We're going to sit down and crack the books and find out what we can prosecute this person with. And that's what we should be doing here. But I got to tell you, every time that we talk about this stuff, we get the same nonsense. Well, it's really, we just want to make sure that things are tidied up so it doesn't happen again. I got to tell you, folks, that's so inexcusable to me. We should not be willing to tolerate that as the American population. we really shouldn't. All right, we got about 3 minutes left, and before we go, I want to remind you of two things. One, American Resume Service has agreed that they are going to support America's Voice Now with a unique program. If you're a person out there who's looking for a job, you need a job, or you've been applying for jobs and not having a whole lot of success, one of the things can be your resume. If it's done poorly, and the rules for resumes go, through changes from time to time, but people in human resources or personnel or whatever you want to call it, the resume is their first and sometimes only look at you. And it's got to be done right, and it's got to be done well in order for them to be able to get the right impression of you so that you get raised to the top and not thrown to the bottom of the pile. Mike Slack, who's a listener and a longtime supporter of this program, a very sharp and intelligent guy, he's got a company out there called AmericanResumeService.com. His phone number is 417-264-2486. You can reach him by email at info@AmericanResumeService.com. He's agreed to put their $200 package and make it available to anyone who's an AVN listener. You got to tell them you are, by the way. And that they will provide a resume rebuild service for you, or a complete from scratch. They'll put a resume together for you for $100, half the normal cost. It's normally a $200 package. They're going to do it for $100. And then, to make matters even better for you and us, he's going to donate that whole $100 to AVN to help keep this program on the air. I think that, ladies and gentlemen, is a phenomenal offer, and I'm touched and I'm extremely excited about it. And I think you should be too. He's going to do this for a total of 20 of these resume packages. So if you are a person who's out there struggling, trying to get yourself back into the workforce, if you've been out for a while especially, sometimes you got to explain that big gap in your work life, right? And so nothing like somebody who really knows how to put a resume together to help you accomplish that. What I'd like you to do is go to AmericanResumeService.com, 417-264-2486, or you can email him at info@AmericanResumeService.com. Let him know that you heard about it on AVN and America's Voice Now, and that you'd like to take advantage of the AVN resume package. It's normally $200. It'll cost you $100 this time around, and he'll donate the money back here to AVN. He's also got some great stuff up there about how you can improve your chances, 7 tips for successful job hunting in a bad economy. So get out there, take a look at it, and let's get to work. Also, make sure that you visit and support our friends over at Battery Station. That's batterystation.com. They are one of the largest distributors and shippers of batteries and battery technology around the world. And my friend Kevin over there has been a staunch and longtime supporter of this program. I strongly encourage you to find out what they can offer you by going to their website, batterystation.com. If you don't see it there, they carry tons of tactical gear, bug-out bag type gear, survival products, and all kinds of things. Everything from ammunition to water tablets. You can give them a call at 417-257-7799. That's 417-257-7799. And ask them for what you're looking for. They may well have it, and they'll ship it straight to you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to tackle our last topic, which is the Obama on Benghazi. He comes out and he actually has the nerve to say it's not serious. But the Democrats are joining the investigation. We're going to take a look at those issues. We'll be back in just a moment. Feel free to give a look at our friends at AtlasSurvivalShelters.com and SurvivalByPreparedness.com. Some issues this morning, including how the IRS has got a $1 million Tea Party bounty out on them. You know what? I really like this idea, and I cannot motivate you enough, I don't think, to take advantage of this and assist your nation in this simple endeavor. I hear people say to me all the time, what am I going to do? I'm just one person. I know that there's all kinds of craziness going on, but I'm one person. What can I do? Well, my answer to you is there's plenty you can do. One, you can participate with a program like this, and let's actually put our money where our mouth is. If 20 million Americans put in $5 apiece, we'd have 100 pots of $1 million, 100 bounty pots equal to $1 million each that we could offer to anyone who will come out with documentable, empirical, provable evidence for any of these scandals. It doesn't matter which one it is. I don't care. Pick the scandal that you maybe dedicate the funding to that scandal. Benghazi, if that's the one that you catches your interest. I mean, I don't care if we go all the way back to Fast and Furious. Birth certificate issues. Hello. So, that's a great opportunity, and I encourage you to participate in that. You can. There's a story out there on the Blaze about it, and you can go read that story. She exposed Catherine Engelbrecht from the president of the nonprofit group True the Vote. Brought this out the other night on Megyn Kelly's show on Fox News. All right. We also covered 47% of Americans have given up, but immigration is still on the table because the traitors who are running the country, they don't represent you. Our third topic was that the VA scandal must be a criminal investigation, and nothing less will do. And I mean it, folks. Nothing less will do. It's inexcusable what's going on there. But this particular segment, we're going to cover Benghazi. And Obama actually had the nerve to come out and say it's not serious. Well, I got to tell you, he was at a fundraiser. Where else, right? I mean, where else do you ever hear about Obama? He's always on his way to a fundraiser, at a fundraiser, or coming back from a fundraiser. Every incident that happens in the country, he doesn't know anything about, and he's at a fundraiser. He learns about it from the media because he was at a fundraiser. Or he's on his way to a fundraiser. Or he's trying to count the money that he just collected at a fundraiser. I mean, it's ridiculous. And by the way, I might add, we're paying for all this because, we the taxpayers cover the Air Force One and all of the expenses that associated with him flying around the country raising money for the Democrats to kill us, frankly, as a nation. So he actually came out at this Democratic fundraiser on Monday night, and he told donors that the debates that are on scandals, including Benghazi and Obamacare, are pointless. Really? Pointless? Yesterday, if you missed yesterday's show, I exposed how the HIPAA form actually voids out your right to privacy and that you can be investigated for the safety of the president and national security, and how your health records are a wide open book now to anyone and everyone in the government, including any of their cronies, friends, affiliates, partners, pals, bribers, whatever. Obamacare was not about health care, ladies and gentlemen. It was about control over you. But more importantly, it is not a pointless exercise to expose this stuff. The bailout that I talked about the other day on Monday or Tuesday, they're going to bail out the insurance companies because everybody knows that the truth is there's not enough healthy young people signing up. That's it. And so the thing is going to go into death spiral. Somebody's going to have to capture the cost, and it's going to be the taxpayer. And so they're promising to bail out the insurance companies, who are gloating all the way to the bank. Benghazi, we got 4 Americans dead. We've got, obviously, dereliction of duty on the part of the Secretary of State and the President at minimum, perhaps the Joint Chiefs of Staff, numerous members of his staff, members of the intelligence community. We've got bold and open, blatant lies by the Commander-in-Chief. I mean, lest we forget that 2 weeks after Benghazi, 2 full weeks, he went and stood in front of the UN and told the world that it was a result of a scurrilous video. at the UN, ladies and gentlemen. See, he didn't just have a little local egg on his face. He had egg on his face on a global scale. At this fundraiser, he said, the debate we're having now is about what? Benghazi? Obamacare? And it becomes this endless loop. It's not serious. It's not speaking to the real concerns that people have. Well, I beg to differ. It is speaking to some of the real concerns, but they're symptomatic. The real concern is that you have become a dictatorial monster. Let me be blunt, Mr. President. Let me be blunt. You have become a dictatorial monster. And frankly, I can't trust you to do anything. I don't trust you. I don't trust anything that you do. All of your agendas are designed to destroy our nation. They're designed to destroy the base of religious belief in this country. They're designed to destroy society, the morals and the mores and the attitudes and the opinions that people have. Anyone you disagree with, you persecute as if they were the enemy. You have sat down and created an enemies list, and then you have sicked like rabid dogs untold numbers of federal agencies. You've unleashed the hounds on your own people, or what you claim to be your own people. The Government Accountability Institute released a Benghazi timeline that revealed that Obama failed to attend the daily intelligence briefings that were related to the issues surrounding Benghazi for the 5 prior consecutive days leading up to September 11th, 2012. So, how is it that that's not serious, Mr. President? You mean to tell me that you didn't show up for the intelligence briefings that are part and parcel of your job and function? At the fundraiser, he went on to say, Republicans are trying to figure out how they can make people sufficiently cynical, sufficiently angry, sufficiently suspicious that they can win the next election. I hate to be blunt about it, but that's the play. With all due respect, I don't think the American people need to be prodded by the traitorous Republicans for any of that. I think we are sufficiently cynical, angry, and suspicious of both you and the Republicans. And rightly so. See, this isn't about Republicans, and it's not about Democrats. What this is about Americans. What this is about Americans who, quite frankly, we're beside ourselves because we don't know what to do to try to save our nation from you and the selfsame people that you are, denigrating there, the Republicans. You've got the media in your pocket. CNN's Jeff Zucker came out the other day. It's the president of CNN. He used to be the president of NBC. And, like a fighter test pilot, he augured NBC into the ground. Now he's moved on to CNN, and he's doing the same thing there. You know what he said the other day? This is going to stun you. We're not going to be shamed into covering Benghazi. Shamed? I thought you were the most trusted name in news. How is that shaming you? I don't get it. I don't understand. Explain to me how it's a shame for you to cover a real legitimate news story. We wouldn't want the most trusted name in news to report on any actual facts now, right? I mean, let's just speculate about the missing airplane for another 2 months while you auger this network into the ground. No wonder it's called the Communist News Network. You know what he actually said to follow that up? As if that wasn't bad enough. This is what he actually said, and I kid you not. This should have been accepted as an admission of guilt by the board of CNN, but it wasn't. Here's what he said. This is going to kill you. When they said, well, what are you going to cover? He said, actually, climate change is one of those stories that deserves more attention, that we all talk about. Then he went on to admit, and he lamented the fact that, quote, when we do those stories, however, there does tend to be a tremendous amount of lack of interest on the audience's part. I mean, hold on a minute. Let's just analyze that for a moment, because I mean, this is a comedy routine, right? I mean, this can't possibly be real, can it? Hold on a minute now. Climate change is one of those stories that deserves more attention, that we talk about, that we all talk about. But when we do these stories on climate change, there does seem to be a tremendous amount of lack of interest, which is a double entendre negative oxymoron, I think. I don't know. There's a tremendous amount of lack of interest on the audience's part. It's not just a slight lack of interest. It's a tremendous lack of interest. You know why? Because America recognizes that climate change is a farce, that it's a hoax, that you're pushing on us nonsensical arguments that don't have any bearing in reality, that it's commissioned science, bought and purchased like a painting. Well, I want you to paint my wife, but I want you to get all the rolls off of her. I want you to take all the wrinkles away. I want you to get rid of the gray hair and give her brunette, make her a brunette again. Paint her without her glasses, make her breasts a little bit bigger, thin down her hips a little bit, and that's the one we're going to put over the fireplace mantel. That's what science is now. It's commissioned artwork. President Barack Obama is sitting there telling us there's no truth to Benghazi. He's a liar. He says to us, this whole issue of Obamacare is a non-issue. He's a liar. He lied to the American population in order to get it approved and passed. Ladies and gentlemen, in and of itself, assuming Obamacare actually worked as promised, let's assume for argument's sake the website ran like a rape tape and it didn't have a single problem and every gerbil hit the exact wheel at the right time. To get America to buy a program by lies and obfuscation and untruth, in and of itself, that disqualifies it from any real and credible position in the nation. They call this his landmark piece of legislation, but he got it by deception. How do you count that? That's like saying, you know, that Al Capone, who's only known for being a gangster and a murderer, was otherwise a fairly good guy. And we should give him accolades for all of that. No, he wiped all of that out by being a murderer and a bad guy. You know, it's okay that he handed nickels to the kids as he drove through in his Model T Ford, but that doesn't make him a good guy. Doesn't make it acceptable that he committed murder. What Barack Obama did in order to get Obamacare passed, and not because he gave a darn about your health care, but more because he really cared about making sure that he set the stage for 100% total government control and surveillance and monitoring and access to you. Domination, oppression. That's what it's about. How do you accomplish that? Well, first of all, you need to know about everything about everybody. Once you have all that information, you can determine who your enemies are. then you can use the federal government and the power and the weight of the 800-pound law enforcement gorilla in the room to punish at will. Folks, it ain't rocket science. Science. I don't have a political science degree, but you don't have to be a Harvard grad to look at this and see exactly what the plan was and what the plan is. Why else would you be forced to sign off on a HIPAA form just in order to get medical care that says for law enforcement that they can disclose your personal health information for law enforcement purposes, such as with the police or other law enforcement officials, and for the purposes of protecting the president? Protecting the president? What does that got to do with the fact that you got a wart on your nose? That they can disclose your PHI, personal health information, for specific government functions, including military personnel and veterans in certain situations, and disclose PHI for national security purposes, such as protecting the President of the United States or conducting intelligence and counterintelligence operations. Does that mean we got the CIA running the healthcare industry now? I guess I'm confused. If America knew that this was going to be the HIPAA form they were going to sign off on, did America know that this was going to be what they were signing off on? Did they know that their health records were going to be exposed for national security purposes and counterintelligence? Did you know that you were being caught up in the spider web of the dogs of war? You think Americans would have fought harder against their Democrat representatives signing off on it? Because let's not pretend that the Republicans had any part of this. And I'm not giving them a pass. They gave us the NDAA. That's a whole different topic, and I've done plenty of shows about that. But both parties are traitorous in their own way. Equally guilty. Obama is monitoring us so that they can use the NDAA to pick us up, that the Republicans passed. Hello. So really, the duopoly system of a Republican and a Democrat party are an act against the interests of America. Because there really is no difference between them. They both seek your subjugation, your oppression, your enslavement. They just go about it different ways. And it's the old adage of my enemy's enemy is my friend. If you think these guys don't get together and crack a beer on a Friday night in a pub somewhere and joke about the legislation they're trying to get passed across, we're bipartisan beer buddies, you're fooling yourself. Tell me, you don't think that the prosecutor knows the attorneys and that those guys don't have conversations off the record and over a cigarette out in the parking lot or at a pub on a Friday night? You're joking, right? You see, the truth is, Benghazi was a serious issue. Obamacare is a serious issue. Fast and Furious was a serious issue. How do I know that? Well, because there are hundreds, at this point thousands, of dead Mexicans. And at least 2 dead Americans from Fast and Furious. And we've got an attorney general who's supposed to be the chief law enforcement officer in the land, who's now guilty of contempt, criminally and civilly, of Congress. That tells me a lot. Secondarily, when we look at Benghazi, we have 4 dead Americans, and we have $500 million worth of weaponry that was given to directly aid and abet a sworn known enemy of the United States of America, also known as Al-Qaeda. And I don't care whether they're core Al-Qaeda, offshoot Al-Qaeda, Qaeda Al-Qaeda, Betty Qaeda, Steve Qaeda, Willie Qaeda. You can call it whatever you want. When you are giving ammunition, weaponry, and weapons of mass destruction, I mean, we're talking about missiles, surface-to-air missiles that can take down airliners. When you're supporting and providing that kind of weaponry to enemies sworn to destroy the United States of America, that's an act of treason. Let me ask you this. Everybody knows the well-vaunted and well-known danger signals associated with the Middle East, right? I mean, everybody hates Israel. Everybody hates them. Saudis don't like them. Iran doesn't like them. Syria don't like them. You know, the list just goes on and on and on and on. Do you think for 1 second, if one of the people, the prime minister, for example, armed Hezbollah, Hamas, gave them weaponry that was then used against the nation of Israel, how do you think they'd treat that person? Go ahead, I'm waiting. Yeah, I thought so. Would that be treason? Absolutely. All right, we're going to wrap our program for today. Before we go, do me a favor and yourself a favor. If you are looking for some all-natural grass-fed beef that can be shipped around the nation, you can go to survivalbypreparedness.com. They have 100% all-natural grass-fed beef, no steroids, no hormones, nothing. No grain, no GMOs, and they ship to your home. Comes frozen, and it's delicious stuff. Atlas Survival Shelters. You're looking for a place to get away with your family in the event of an economic, a natural, a man-made, and otherwise disaster, weather disaster, earthquake, whatever. Atlas Survival Shelters. They're going to be starting a new program where they're building shelter communities. You can get to their website by atlassurvivalshelters.com, or you can find them on Facebook. Make sure that you hit the like button on everybody's pages and let them know that you heard about them on AVN. Make sure you visit our friends at the Battery Station at batterystation.com. They're great friends of ours, and they're big supporters of this program. You can find them at batterystation.com. You can call them at 417-257-7799. Visit our friends at Pizza Hut, because on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they have reduced price lunch. Today's Thursday. Hey! If you come to the Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains, that's my local Pizza Hut, and they will treat you unbelievably well. Let them know that you heard about their program on America's Voice Now. All the staff there know me, and they all know about this program, and so they'll take exceptional care of you. On Tuesday night, kids under 12 eat free. It's family night. Pizza Hut, they have a nice spread out there. They got a salad bar and a pizza bar and pasta and stuff like that. And those cinnamon sticks that got cinnamon and that little white drizzly sugar on top, man, those things are just, they're as addictive as crack. Last but not least, AmericanResumeService.com. AmericanResumeService.com. This is a long-time listener. He's got 20,000 employed clients over the past 25 years because of resumes he's done. I mean, that is a heck of a company. He's got a program out there where normally they charge $200 for this resume package they help you put together, and you got to give them, of course, the basic raw material, but they help you draft it, write it, word it in such a way that it's effective, and it does get you the interview. That's its only purpose, folks. And so he's got a program out there that he's going to offer for America's Voice Now to the first 20 people who take advantage of it, the $200 package for only $100, and then he's going to donate the $100 to America's Voice Now. How cool is that? So, you're not making a donation to America's Voice Now. What you're actually doing is you're getting yourself a great resume for $100, and America's Voice Now is going to benefit from that, helping keep us on the air. You can get there by going to AmericanResumeService.com. You can call 417-264-2486. That's 417-264-2486. Or you can try info at AmericanResumeService.com. You can always communicate with me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. And if you're interested in supporting and sponsoring this program, I'd love to hear from you. We will see you tomorrow morning. God bless. Have a great day. We're out.